The handles of the glossy shopping bags cut into my palms as I walk slowly up the cracked concrete path to my parents' house. The warm air of a late spring evening hums around me, carrying scents that haven't changed in decades. The faint tang of cigarette smoke drifts from the porch, where the old wood is stained dark from years of use. It mixes with the sweeter fragrance of the potted geraniums my mother insists on lining the front steps every year. Their crimson blossoms like bright punctuation marks against peeling paint. The smells collide. Cigarette ash and flowers. Comfort and tension just like this house. My heart thumps with each step forward. It's been 3 months since my last visit, and in that time, the distance between us has stretched taut. I've planned every detail of tonight carefully, down to the gifts I chose with the hope, maybe foolish, maybe desperate, that they might bridge the widening chasm between me and my family. I pause at the door, adjust my pressed slacks, and smooth down the front of my blouse. My hotel badge dangles from the collar on a lanyard I forgot to take off. The shiny logo glinting like a secret I shouldn't carry here. I tuck it under the neckline quickly and push open the door. Look who finally remembered where she came from. My father calls out the moment I step inside. His voice rumbles from the corner of the living room where he's half buried in the old recliner. Charles Miller's dark skin is mapped with years of labor at the steel mill. His broad hands resting on the arms of the chair as though they alone could keep the whole house steady. His eyes flick from my neatly ironed clothes to the hotel badge I failed to hide in time. His lips curl into a smirk. Well. The fancy hotel manager graces us with her presence. Hi, Dad. I force brightness into my tone, my smile stiff around the edges. The air inside feels heavy, too still, as though waiting for the performance we always end up staging. From the kitchen, Jack emerges with a bottle of beer clutched loosely in his hand. At 32, he's still here, still shadowing Dad's footsteps at the mill. He leans against the doorway, his frame tall but softened by a life that hasn't required much change. His eyes land on my outfit, and he lets out a low chuckle. Nice threads, he says, his tone thick with mockery. That polyester blend must really impress the rich folks at your hotel. I tighten my grip on the gift bags, the paper rustling like a warning. I steady myself with a slow breath. Family is family, I remind myself, even when their words cut sharper than knives. I brought some things I thought you might like. I say finally, stepping further into the room and setting the bags gently on the coffee table. My mother enters then. Monica Miller, wiping her hands on a faded dishcloth. The warm brown of her skin glows under the weak yellow lamp, but her eyes avoid mine, darting away the instant they meet. She hovers near the doorway like she isn't sure if my arrival is a blessing or a disruption. Dad, this is a new insulated work coat for your night shifts, I say, holding out the first package. His calloused fingers tear through the paper, and for a moment, just a fleeting moment, something like appreciation flickers across his face. But it hardens quickly, buried beneath the armor he wears whenever my achievements step into this house. Mom, I got you that ceramic cookware set you mentioned last Thanksgiving, I add, lifting a heavier bag. She takes it, her hands brushing mine briefly, and a faint, hesitant smile tugs at her lips. And Jack? I continue, offering him a box. Inside lies a watch. Not extravagant, but tasteful, like the one he admired on my wrist months ago. His eyebrows rise, surprise flashing across his features. Though it fades almost immediately, the silence that follows feels sharp. Dad clears his throat, the edge in his voice unmistakable. Hotel money makes you feel rich enough to buy all this. Huh. Is that why you don't call anymore? Too busy counting your dollars. Heat crawls up my neck. My chest tightens. But I steady myself. Actually, I say, trying to keep my voice light. I was promoted last week. Senior manager now. It's a big step up. The room goes still. I recognize this silence. I've lived inside it for years. The same silence that fell the night I told them about college. That night, Dad hurled his dinner plate into the sink so hard it shattered. Real workers use their hands, not fancy words, he'd barked. But I also remember the warmth of Aunt Annie's smile when I showed her my acceptance letter. I remember the feel of her hand pressing a check into mine. Education is never wasted, she'd whispered, her eyes gleaming with pride. Now, standing in the familiar stale air of my parents' living room, I study Dad's face. His jaw tightens, the muscles pulsing as if the news of my promotion is a direct insult. Why does every achievement feel like betrayal here? I thought maybe seeing what the promotion entails might help you understand why it matters to me. I add carefully. From my shoulder bag, I draw out my new laptop, silver and sleek, the most expensive purchase I've ever made. Inside it lies the proposal that won corporate's approval for a renovation project, the first major responsibility of my career as senior manager. This presentation is what I'll be showing investors tomorrow. Dad lets out a low snort. That fancy computer won't help when that hotel dries up. Tourist towns never last. Jack leans forward, resting his bottle on the table with a thud. He eyes the laptop, then me, still trying to prove you're better than us, pathetic. The word hangs heavy in the air. My chest burns, but I force myself not to flinch. I'm having lunch with Aunt Annie tomorrow to celebrate, I say, steadying my tone. The room shifts immediately. Dad's face darkens at the mention of his sister. She always encouraged your foolishness, filled your head with ideas about being something you're not. She believed in me when no one else did. I reply quietly, sliding the laptop closed as a small act of self-preservation. She loaned me money for my first semester when you refused. And look where that got you. Dad mutters, working for people who'd fire you tomorrow without blinking. I rise, smoothing the front of my slacks, a nervous gesture I've carried since childhood. I should go. I need to prepare for tomorrow. For a brief moment, Mom glances up. There's something there, regret maybe, but she looks away again. Jack fiddles with the watch on his wrist, and Dad stares at the TV as though I've already disappeared. I sling my bag over my shoulder and gather the ruined peace offering of shopping bags. Big day tomorrow, I say, forcing a faint smile. But Dad's beer lands heavily on the table, and his voice slices the air. Wait, you think you can just breeze in here? Drop off some guilt presents and take off? You've always thought you were better than us. He rises slowly, his broad frame blocking the path to the door. Jack chuckles from his corner. Those rich folks got her thinking she belongs with them. Dad, please, I say, my voice sharper now. I need to prepare. People are counting on me. His laugh bursts out, bitter and harsh. People are counting on me too. At the mill, doing real work. His eyes blaze as he lunges forward. His hands, rough from decades of labor, snatched the laptop from my grip with startling strength. "Dad, what are you doing?" My voice cracks. His face twists. Years of resentment rising to the surface. "You need to learn your place. Real work is at the mill." And before my mind can even process it, before my body can react, he lifts the computer high and smashes it to the floor. The crack reverberates through the room like a gunshot. The sleek silver frame splinters. The screen shatters into jagged webs. The hinge snaps free with a sickening crunch. Plastic shards scatter across the worn carpet. I drop to my knees, my breath caught in my throat. My proposal, my presentation, my promotion, all of it lies in ruins at my feet. Jack doesn't even try to hide his smirk. "Now you'll learn what real work feels like." A memory surfaces, sharp and brutal. My college application torn in half. My textbooks mysteriously soaked in the bathtub the night before finals. My acceptance letter disappearing into the fireplace. This isn't the first time. This is simply the first time it's undeniable. "How could you?" I whisper. My voice surprises me with its steadiness. That had my entire presentation on it. The hotel is counting on me. Dad towers above, unmoved. Hotels come and go. Family is forever. But something deep inside me shifts. A piece of me snapping free of the grip they've held for years. With trembling fingers, I pull out my phone and begin snapping photos of the destroyed laptop, documenting the damage from every angle. "What are you doing?" Dad growls. I don't answer. I photograph the payment receipt too. 6 installments still pending. Proof. Evidence. A record this time. Standing slowly, I gather the largest fragments into my bag. Each piece a symbol of years of sabotage. I always hoped we could be a real family. I say softly, but I guess I was wrong. Dad scoffs, his voice suddenly reasonable, almost neighborly. Don't be dramatic. It's just a computer. I meet his eyes one last time. It's not about the computer. It's about respect. And I've never gotten that in this house. The words hang in the stale air as I turn and walk out into the warm spring night. The broken weight of my laptop heavy in my arms, but something lighter stirring in my chest. The night air presses warm against my skin as I stride away from the house. The broken laptop clutched against my chest. Each step feels heavier than the last. As though I'm dragging more than shattered plastic and glass, I'm dragging decades of silence, sabotage, and swallowed words. My car waits at the curb. A small island of independence parked on a street filled with memories of arguments, slammed doors, and late-night tears. I slide into the driver's seat and shut the door, sealing myself off from the noise that still rings in my ears. The apartment key feels heavier than I expected as it slides into the lock. 3 weeks have passed since the night my father smashed my laptop, and I've finally moved into a second-floor unit with a security desk and fob access after hours. A fortress, not of extravagance, but of intention. Annie sets down a box marked kitchen on the counter. Her silver-streaked curls catching the late afternoon sunlight streaming through blinds I've already covered with privacy film. "You travel light for someone who's lived in one place so long," she remarks, glancing around the nearly bare living room. "I only brought what matters," I reply, surveying the sparse space, a second-hand couch, a coffee table, and my new laptop perched on a small desk. What's missing speaks louder. No family photos, no keepsakes passed down, No ornaments from childhood Christmas trees. This is not an extension of my parents' house. It's mine. I pull out my notebook, pages filled with meticulous checklists. Each completed task receives a firm stroke, bank accounts transferred, automatic payments canceled, mail forwarded, phone number changed, emergency contacts updated. This isn't about burning bridges, I tell Annie as she watches me check off another item. It's about building boundaries, ones they can't cross without permission. Later that evening, as I unpack books onto a single shelf, my phone buzzes. The old reflex tugs at my stomach, but it's just a confirmation from the credit monitoring service. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Protection now comes first. You've thought of everything, Annie says, handing me a mug of tea. I had to. This is business restructuring, not family crisis. I answer, though my voice wavers. She studies me over her glasses. Have you practiced what you'll say when they realize you've stopped paying their bills? I nod slowly. I'll tell them the truth that I can't financially support people who sabotage my career. Then I'll end the conversation if they can't respect that. Annie smiles faintly. You make it sound simple. Not simple, I correct. Necessary. The next morning, I step out of the shower to find my phone vibrating against the sink. My mother's name flashes on the screen, the first call in weeks. I hesitate, then answer on the fourth ring. Casey. Her voice quivers. The power company called. They said you canceled the payments. Our electricity gets shut off tomorrow if we don't pay. She sniffles. Why are you doing this to us? The rehearsed response evaporates. I grip the sink. Mom, after what happened with my laptop, your father's been so upset. She interrupts, tears thick in her tone. He told everyone you abandoned us. Your cousin Vicky called asking what she could do. The whole family thinks you've turned your back. Cold realization slams into me. They're rewriting history, painting me as the villain in a story where I was the one betrayed. That's not what happened. Mom, I say, my voice low. He says you care more about your fancy job than your family, that we sacrificed everything for your education, and now you won't help when the mill's closing. My stomach churns. This isn't just sabotage, it's narrative control. They aren't only trying to break my independence, they're reshaping how everyone else sees me. After the call ends, I sit at my desk and begin typing. The subject line reads, What actually happened. I pour out years of memories, dates, events documenting every instance of sabotage, every bill I paid, every effort to support them despite their attempts to drag me backward. Annie finds me still writing an hour later. They're turning everyone against me, I tell her, fingers hovering over the keyboard. I thought I only had to protect myself, but I have to protect the truth too. Annie lays a hand on my back. Sometimes the hardest part isn't standing up for yourself. It's standing up against the story others tell about you. 3 days later, I'm in the hotel lobby when I see them. My father's wearing his best hat, the one reserved for funerals and loan applications. Mom stands beside him in her pale blue church dress. Jack hovers behind, fidgeting with a too stiff button-down. There she is, Dad announces loudly, drawing eyes from guests and staff alike. Our hotel manager daughter. His voice, usually dripping with mockery, now rings with pride, but it's rehearsed, too polished. My stomach drops. This isn't reconciliation. It's an ambush. Casey, honey, Mom says, arms opening for a hug. We've been trying to reach you. I force a neutral expression. I'm in the middle of my shift. Is this urgent? Dad wraps an arm around Mom's shoulders. Is that any way to greet your folks? We just wanted to invite you to Thanksgiving. The whole family's coming. Uncle Jim, Aunt Denise, your cousins from Buffalo. The trap is clear. Refuse in public, and I look heartless. Accept, and I collapse the boundaries I've fought to build. Before I can respond, Daniel Peterson, the hotel director, approaches, smiling warmly. Mr. Miller. Wonderful to finally meet you. Casey speaks highly of her family. Dad's face transforms instantly. He grips Daniel's hand, posture proud. The pleasure's all mine. Just wanted to see where my daughter works her magic. I feel horror creeping under my skin. My carefully separated worlds are colliding. Daniel beams. Casey was instrumental in our recent renovation project. The board was very impressed. That's our girl, Mom says, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Always the smart one. Jack adds, voice low but convincing. We're really proud of her. The director turns to me, eyebrows raised. You never mentioned your family was stopping by. It was meant to be a surprise, Dad says smoothly, eyes locking on mine. The mill's closing. We need her now more than ever. Mom leans in, tears shining, medical bills, utilities. It's been so hard. We thought Thanksgiving would be a good time to talk. Gasps ripple through the nearby guests. Marcus, at the desk, shifts uncomfortably. This is more than an ambush, it's theater. Staged in my workplace. Why don't we continue this somewhere private? I say tightly, gesturing to the small conference room. Dad hesitates, clearly preferring the audience, but Mom touches his arm. That sounds lovely, dear. As we cross the lobby, Jack whispers something to Dad. Their coordination makes my stomach turn. Then, just as panic threatens to overwhelm me, the sliding doors open. Casey Annie's voice cuts across the space. She strides in, a paper bag swinging from her hand. You forgot your lunch again. I swear, you'd forget your head if it wasn't attached. Relief floods me. Our prearranged signal. If she spotted their car outside, she'd arrive with my forgotten lunch. The cavalry has arrived. Annie, Mom says stiffly. Monica. Annie's smile is polite, her eyes sharp. She hands me the bag. Charles, Jack, out together. I see. Daniel studies the exchange, awareness dawning in his eyes. I slip my phone from my pocket, pull up the photos of my shattered laptop, and show him quickly. This is what I'm dealing with. I whisper. His expression hardens as he studies the images, then glances at my father with new clarity. I see, he says, voice cool. We reach the conference room. My family files in. Annie taking a seat beside me, Daniel behind. The door clicks shut. Dad plants himself at the head of the table, shoulders squared. We're just worried about Casey, he begins, his voice dripping with paternal authority. The mill's closing after 40 years, 200 families without work. Times like these, family needs to stick together. Jack stands near the window, arms folded, his presence reinforcing the front. Mom clutches her purse on her lap, gaze lowered but darting occasionally like a nervous actress. Their formation is strategic. The reasonable patriarch, the worried matriarch, the dutiful son, but Annie's hand brushes mine beneath the table, steadying me. The director clears his throat. I understand family concerns, but I'm confused why this required interrupting Casey during work hours. Dad leans forward, elbows heavy on the table. Our daughter's been ignoring calls, canceling utilities without warning. We're worried she's under too much stress with this new promotion. For years, those words, accusations disguised as concern, would have unraveled me. Not today. Perhaps we should hear from Casey, Daniel suggests, turning to me. I open the folder I prepared weeks ago. Photos, spreadsheets, copies of emails, documentation of everything. My voice doesn't shake. Director Peterson, I'd like to explain why I've had to establish boundaries with my family. I slide the first photo across the table, the smashed laptop, broken screen glinting under the flash. My father destroyed this the night before my presentation to investors. The room stills. It wasn't the first time. When I received my college acceptance, my textbooks disappeared. When I got my first management job, my car mysteriously failed the morning I was supposed to start. Every major opportunity has been shadowed by sabotage. Dad's face reddens. I'm not finished. I cut in. Voice firm. For the past 8 years, I've paid the household bills while trying to build my career. Utilities, groceries, car insurance. I've supported them financially while receiving this in return. I tap the photo. Jack shifts uneasily at the window. Mom stares harder at her lap. Annie speaks up softly. Charles, you did the same thing to me. You broke my camera the night before my scholarship interview. You tore up Monica's nursing school application. This isn't new. Annie, this is family business, Dad snaps. Yes, I say sharply. Family business that's destroyed opportunities for decades. I slide the spreadsheet forward rows of payments, neatly recorded. This is every expense I've covered. And here, I add, pulling out printed emails, are requests for bill money sent the same day my laptop was destroyed. You can't claim I abandoned you when I've been holding this family afloat. Silence spreads like wildfire. The director frowns. Mr. Miller, are you aware destroying someone's property is a crime? We could press charges for the laptop alone? Dad blusters, but his mask of authority slips. Casey misunderstood. I understand perfectly. I interrupt. You've spent years ensuring I failed so you wouldn't have to face your own fear of becoming obsolete. You needed me to fail with you. But that's not love. That's control. The words hang sharp in the air. Undeniable. For a moment, I can't breathe. My chest rises and falls in short, shallow bursts. I grip the steering wheel, knuckles whitening, and let the truth settle. This wasn't just anger. It wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. The final proof of what I've long suspected, but never fully admitted. My father has spent years dismantling every opportunity that threatened to pull me beyond his control. I don't drive toward my apartment. Instead, muscle memory takes me down familiar streets to Aunt Annie's neighborhood. The glow of her porch light warms the dark like a beacon. Before I can knock, the door opens. Annie stands framed in the doorway. Silver streaks bright against the soft brown of her loose curls. Her eyes sweep over me, landing on the bag in my arms. "Oh, honey," she says, voice weighted with knowing. What happened? The dam inside me breaks. She pulls me into her arms, wrapping me in the scent of cinnamon and home, a steadiness I've longed for. Inside, her kitchen light spills across patterned linoleum, and I spread the broken fragments of my laptop across her table. The pieces look pitiful under the bright overhead bulb, like bones scattered from a long battle. Annie sits across from me, hands folded, her eyes never leaving mine as I explain everything Dad's words. Jack's laughter. Mom's silence. The violent shatter of my future on the living room floor. When I finish, Annie disappears into her spare room. She returns with a laptop so old it's nearly a relic. Bulky plastic casing scuffed and fan whirring loudly when she powers it on. "It's not pretty," she says, sliding it toward me. "But it works. They can break things, but they can't break you." My throat tightens. I run a finger along the jagged edge of my ruined computer. This isn't about a computer. It's about respect. Annie nods, her gaze fierce. "Then we'd better make sure you knock that presentation out of the park tomorrow." We spend the night bent over her old machine, piecing together slides from memory and backup files. At 2 a.m., I call the hotel's IT support line. I just need to know if my presentation auto-saved before my laptop was damaged. I explain, my voice trembling on the edge of panic. Relief floods me when the technician confirms everything is backed up on the company drive. Annie sets steaming mugs of tea beside us. "Smart girl," she murmurs, pride shining in her eyes. "Always prepared." I sip the hot liquid, letting the warmth soothe the rawness in my chest. I learned after my college application disappeared. I never told anyone, but I knew something wasn't right. Since then, I back up everything. Annie leans back, her robe cinched tightly around her waist. "Your father did the same to me. You know? The week before my photography scholarship interview, he broke my camera, said it was an accident, but I knew." My head jerks up. "You never told me that." "Some family stories are harder to share," she replies softly. "Have you noticed how these accidents always happen right before your big opportunities?" The realization lands heavy. Every milestone, college acceptance, first apartment, promotions, each shadowed by some catastrophe that pulled me backward. How did I not see it? My stomach twists as Annie reaches into a drawer and pulls out a small notebook. "Your mother gave me this last Christmas. Said she didn't know what to do with it." I flip through pages filled with neat handwriting. Dates, job titles, salary figures, an entire record of my career, written in Mom's script. My breath catches. She's been keeping track. "I think part of her is proud," Annie says gently. "She just doesn't know how to show it." I trace the ink with my finger. The revelation tightens something in my chest, but also clarifies it. They can break my things, but they can't erase what I've done. They can't erase me. We work until dawn, rebuilding the presentation slide by slide. By morning, my eyes burn with exhaustion, but the project feels sharper, leaner, more powerful. Annie squeezes my shoulder. That's my girl. Hours later, I walk into the hotel conference room, clutching Annie's ancient laptop. 6 board members sit at a long table, tailored suits and polished shoes gleaming under fluorescent lights. Their eyebrows rise at the outdated machine in my hands. "Casey, the director," Daniel Peterson, asks, "is everything all right with your equipment?" Instead of excuses, I place the laptop on the table and meet his gaze. Sometimes obstacles appear right before opportunities. I say, my voice steady. How we handle them defines us. I connect the laptop with cables Annie dug from her attic. The first slide glows onto the projector screen, crisp and professional despite the old hardware. Our hotel stands at a similar crossroads. I continue. We can view budget constraints as limitations or as invitations to innovate. As I speak, the room shifts. Skepticism softens into curiosity. Heads nod slowly as I guide them through proposals that highlight character over cost, uniqueness over uniformity. 20 minutes later, silence hangs thick as I conclude. Then the director snaps his portfolio shut. "I've been hesitant to expand departmental budgets," he says, "but not anymore. Casey, your team gets the first allocation." Applause doesn't come, but approval radiates from their faces. Relief and pride swell in my chest. My phone buzzes as the meeting ends, texts from my parents. Messages demanding bill money that's already overdue. I silence it and slip the phone back into my pocket. For the first time, I don't feel compelled to answer. In the lobby, colleagues glance up. The front desk manager flashes a thumbs up. The usually reserved maintenance supervisor nods with respect. Word of my success has already spread. The director approaches. "That was impressive work, Casey, especially given the circumstances. If you need an advance for a new computer, say the word. We invest in people who invest in themselves." Before I can reply, Aunt Annie appears at the entrance, clutching a bouquet of yellow daisies. Her smile lights up the room. "I knew you'd knock their socks off," she says, pulling me into an embrace. Colleagues watch us with warm eyes. For the first time, I feel seen not as an outsider struggling for validation, but as a leader whose work speaks louder than sabotage. Annie squeezes my hand. "You should stay with me until things cool down." That evening, we sit at her dining room table, surrounded by receipts, papers, and her old laptop. The glow of victory has faded, replaced by calculation. "This can't just be about hurt feelings," I tell Annie, flipping through documents. "This has to be about facts." The table becomes a war room. I create spreadsheets of every bill I've paid for my parents' utilities, groceries, even Jack's car insurance. Each row of numbers is evidence. Each column a record of my silent support. "You've been carrying them since your first management job," Annie observes, peering at my screen. 3 years of utilities, plus groceries. I nod, adding figures to the growing total. This isn't punishment. It's protection. I need to understand what I've been contributing and what needs to stop. Annie presses her glasses higher on her nose. "Your father did the same thing to your mother. Tore up her nursing school application the night before it was due. She never recovered from that." I swallow hard and add it to my notes. This isn't just about me. It's a pattern. And patterns can be broken. I create folders, one for financial entanglements, one for HR contacts to update my emergency information, one for credit monitoring. Each task checked off feels like reclaiming ground I didn't know I'd lost. The phone rings. Annie answers, her face tightening. "You'd better come see this," she says, handing me the receiver. Minutes later, I stand in my office overlooking the hotel lobby. My parents are downstairs, arguing with the receptionist. Dad's voice booms. Mom's tears stream at perfect intervals. Guests watch, whispering. "They're looking for you," my director says at my shoulder. Something about unpaid bills. My stomach clenches. This is new, an invasion of my workplace, a threat to my professional standing. Security approaches, calm but firm. Dad jabs a finger toward the elevators. Mom clutches her purse like a prop in a play. "Should we call the police?" the director asks. "No," I reply, standing straighter. "Security can handle it. I've dealt with difficult guests before." But these aren't guests. These are the people who raised me, now being escorted from the building that represents everything I've built. As they vanish through the glass doors, Dad's face, red with rage. I feel tension rise in my shoulders, but beneath it, a new strength grows. They can't take this from me either, I murmur, turning back to my desk. The strategy continues. The preparation deepens. My resolve hardens. The conference room hums with silence after my words. My father's mask of confidence cracks, jaw tight, eyes dark with fury he can't disguise. For a long moment, no one moves. Jack shifts uncomfortably at the window, his reflection staring back at him, perhaps for the first time seeing the truth of our family dynamic laid bare. My mother's hands tremble as she clutches her purse tighter, her eyes shining with tears, not the rehearsed ones she used in the lobby, but real, uncalculated emotion. Daniel Peterson straightens, his expression resolute. Mr. Miller, this behavior is unacceptable in any family. More importantly, it is unacceptable in a professional environment. I will not tolerate further interference with one of my employees. His tone carries the weight of authority my father has always claimed, but now can't command. My father opens his mouth to argue, but Daniel cuts him off. If you or any member of your family disrupts this hotel again, we will involve law enforcement. For a moment, I think Dad might explode. His fists clench, shoulders shaking with the effort of containing himself. But instead of the outburst I brace for, he exhales sharply through his nose, deflated. His empire of intimidation crumbles in the face of someone he cannot control. Jack finally turns from the window, his face pale. He doesn't defend Dad. He doesn't laugh. For the first time, he looks stunned, like he never imagined this day would come. My mother lifts her head, tears slipping down her cheeks. Her voice is soft, almost a whisper. Casey, we need you. The mill really is closing. We don't know how to survive this. I meet her gaze. I know. Mom. But needing me doesn't give you the right to destroy what I've built. The truth slices clean through the air. There is no shouting now, no laughter, no manipulation. Just the heavy quiet of reckoning. Daniel moves to the door, opening it in a gesture that is both courteous and final. This meeting is over. My father stiffens but rises, shoulders rigid with restrained anger. Jack follows, his eyes flicking toward me once before dropping to the floor. My mother lingers for a heartbeat longer, her lips parting as though she wants to say something. But no words come. She slips out, her figure small against the fluorescent hallway. The door closes. The weight in the room lifts, leaving behind a strange clarity. Annie squeezes my hand under the table. Her eyes shine with quiet pride. You did what I never could, she whispers. Daniel looks at me, his voice firm but kind. Those who tear others down reveal more about themselves than about you. Casey, you showed this company who you are long before today. This just confirms it. For the first time in years, I feel calm, not hollowed out, not desperate for approval, but steady. The bridge to my childhood is burning behind me, but ahead, there is freedom without guilt. Weeks later, I sit across from Daniel in his office. He slides a framed certificate toward me, Employee of the Quarter. Embossed gold letters shimmer under the light, my name etched clearly beneath. The board was especially impressed with how you handled everything, he says, leaning back in his chair. Not many could deliver a flawless presentation after a family crisis. Let alone manage such a confrontation with professionalism. My fingers trace the edge of the frame. Thank you, I say softly. In the past, I would have minimized it, brushed off the recognition. But now, I let it land, steady and grounding.
The staff talks about it, Daniel continues. Not the drama, your composure. Leadership like that can't be taught.
Outside the office window, tourists stroll along manicured paths, families laughing as children tug at their parents' hands. For a brief moment, I watch a father lift his daughter onto his shoulders, her small hands gripping his forehead as she beams. Something twists in my chest, but the ache is distant now, like an old scar that only stirs before rain. Have you heard from them? Daniel asks gently. I shake my head. They left town a day later. Jack texted once to say the mill officially closed. I set the certificate down carefully. I think it's better this way. What I don't tell him is how much lighter I feel. How I sleep through the night for the first time in years. How decisions come without the constant shadow of anticipated disapproval. Tuesday evenings become a ritual. Annie and I sit on her porch with glasses of lemonade, watching the sun sink behind the azaleas. The air hums with cicadas, her rocking chair creaking in rhythm with mine.
I made the appointment. I tell her one evening. The therapist you recommended had an opening next week.
Annie nods, satisfaction warming her face. Good. Understanding those patterns will help. Some wounds need more than time.
I sip my lemonade, tart and sweet on my tongue. I updated my emergency contacts today. Put your name at the top.
She squeezes my hand, her eyes soft. About time. We sit in companionable silence, the sky bruising into twilight. A car backfires down the street, and I notice this time I don't flinch. Family isn't always blood, Annie says after a while. Sometimes it's who believes in you. I finish. We clink glasses.
8 months pass. The hotel's largest conference room buzzes with preparation as my team arranges chairs for tomorrow's regional meeting. Morning light pours through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating faces that look to me for guidance. Maria, make sure the catering includes vegetarian options. I call.
Already confirmed. Ms. Miller, she replies, clipboard tucked against her chest. The welcome packets are printed. 2. Where there was once a constant hum of anxiety, I now find rhythm, confidence, clarity. My morning rituals have shifted. Instead of desperate late-night emails to appease my parents, I write 3 pages in a gratitude journal every dawn, listing victories big and small. After work, I drive to the community center where I volunteer teaching financial literacy classes. It started as a way to fill lonely evenings, but has become something far greater. Each lesson feels like a promise kept to myself that the chains of dependence end with me. That night, I park in the driveway of my house. My house, just 3 blocks from Annie's. The mortgage statement in my mailbox feels like freedom each time I see it. My phone buzzes. The number is unfamiliar until memory stirs Jack.
Can we meet? I need to talk to you.
I stare at the message. Old reflexes whisper to ignore it, but my therapist's words echo chosen engagement, not avoidance. I type back coffee shop on Elm, tomorrow at 4. He arrives early, slouched at a corner table, hands fidgeting around a paper cup. When he spots me, he straightens,
uncertainty replacing the smugness I once knew too well.
Thanks for coming, he says quietly.
What's going on, Jack? My tone is neutral, neither hostile nor welcoming.
He stares into his coffee. Dad's sick. His lungs. All those years at the mill. His voice falters. Doctor says it's bad. My heart tightens, but I keep my boundaries steady. I'm sorry to hear that. He blinks. Surprised. That's it. No lecture about karma. Would that help? I ask softly. Silence stretches before he finally sighs. I started working at Uncle Mike's garage. Taking night classes too. Mechanical engineering. My eyebrows lift. That's great. Jack? Really?
He twists the paper cup. I always wanted to study archaeology. Remember when we were kids? Never told anyone. Dad would have exploded. He pauses. When you chased your goals, I was jealous, but I also admired you. Should have said that instead of... His voice trails off, encompassing years of insults and sabotage.
We talk for an hour. Not about reconciliation with our parents, those bridges are ashes, but about choices, about futures, about possibility.
Family can wound the deepest, I say as we stand to leave.
But they can also change, if they choose to. And if they don't, he asks quietly, then you build something new. I gesture toward the street where Annie waits in her car, pretending not to watch. I did.
Jack nods slowly. Maybe we could talk again. On your terms.
I meet his eyes. Only on my terms. He exhales. Something lighter in his posture as he walks away. That night, lying in my bed, I stare at the ceiling and realize the real power lies not in forgiveness or estrangement, but in choice. For the first time in my life, the choice is mine. Family may try to shatter your tools, sabotage your progress, or rewrite your story, but they cannot erase your worth. They cannot destroy your resilience, and they cannot stop you from building something new. If you've ever faced people, even loved ones, who tried to hold you back, remember, this respect isn't given automatically. It's earned, and it must flow both ways. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is draw boundaries, protect your truth, and choose the family who chooses you back. Thank you for walking this journey with me. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment with your own reflections. You never know who might need to hear that they are not alone.
End.